All right.
Good
Hi.
evening, everybody, and welcome to the Euphoria Aftershow, the season finale of season 2 Euphoria.
Ta-da. So let's just be honest. Ryan and I, we typically have watched these a little bit early because we have press links to watch them, but we didn't have one for episode 8.
Yeah.
And that's probably because they didn't want to risk any sort of spoiler alert or it leaking out online. So we literally just finished watching the
Yes.
episode. So that's why we're like a minute late because it ran over a bit.
Yeah, we've sometimes been able to watch it, a few minutes early, and then prepping for this production. But we literally went from the living room right over here because they didn't have the season finale ready on the streamers that we usually watch it on. We watched it on HBO. And so all that to say, you are getting our most potent, top of mind reactions here. And we definitely have a lot of thoughts. So thank you again for joining. Here we are at the end of season 2.
Crazy. Well, before we jump into it, I do want to say congrats to everyone for making it through. Pop a bottle if you have one at home.
Cheers. Yeah, we figured that we would be celebrating the end of the season.
Yes.
I guess we could be toasting to Lexi's play going up and being a smashing success. Why not? I mean, that's certainly the reason why I am dressed, in my most formal Fez wears. I feel like Fez would appreciate the no tie.
I think he would. And I'm dressed in my Rue red sweatshirt. So we kind of went in theme today.
Yeah, this is a little bit of in theme. We're celebrating. So to that, why don't we do a quick cheers to season 2.
Cheers
to Euphoria Aftershow. And
yeah, so thank you again for joining us. I'm sure you know by now that my name is Morgan. This is
my name brother is Ryan.
Yep. We run Cinemacy, which is a film website that's dedicated to independent film, and we love all things indie, foreign, A24. Although we do have an issue, I think, both of us with this season finale episode, which...
Yeah, at what point do we just flat out say our thoughts on the entirety of how they ended the season, which I think it's underwhelming to say the least.
Sure, absolutely. Right? I was very underwhelmed.
Yeah, let us know in the comments what you think as well. Did you like it? Did you like the buildup? If not, what didn't you like? What did you wish that you saw more of? We'll be covering all that. But before we begin, let's also just quickly mention that this episode is also being brought to you in part by the Happy Labs CBD company based out of Manhattan Beach, California. They have a whole line of CBD products with no THC. Go to their website, thehappylabs.com. Check out all of their stuff. What?
Sorry, I'm just seeing you in your Fez wear, and I'm just like, I'm laughing because you're like, tie? No tie.
Yeah, tie, no tie. Faye told me the no tie, so I hope that Fez would approve and that I don't suffer the same fate as him. So go to thehappylabs.com. We're both fans of that, and use promo code HCA for 20% off all of their products. And so without further delay, let's get into episode 8, season 2, All My Life, My Heart Has Yearned for a Thing I Cannot Name. Wow. What a title. Sam Levinson has always had a thing for referencing a lot from literature, art, a lot. He's a very smart guy. And so this apparently is a reference to, I guess, a surrealist novel written by Andre Breton, maybe how you pronounce it. And the novel was Mad Love. I guess Mad Love has been acknowledged as an undisputed classic of the surrealist movement since it was published in France in 1937. So Sam Levinson, he's digging deep.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of his titles, too, have had to do with literature, poems that bordered on surreal.
Exactly. I was just about to point that out.
Right, which makes sense for this episode as well as last week's episode, just because this play is sort of art imitating life, imitating art. And it's it's the definition of surreal.
Yeah. He's apparently most fascinated with humans processing trauma through art. I mean, essentially, that seems to be his biggest focus, and the thing that delights him the most is centering this whole final episode on Lexi's arc, I think. And she is the one who is processing her trauma through art, through the stories that she's telling. And of course, Sam Levinson is also doing the same thing. He's telling his story as a writer, director, creator of Euphoria. So I think it's maybe he's not so much finding a connection with Lexi, the person, but maybe she just is the character who he's able to relate with in being able to, process trauma through, making this entertainment storytelling.
Yeah. Question though, when did Euphoria become the Lexi show? Because it was Rue. I mean, it's Rue's story.
Yeah.
But I feel like we haven't seen her in the last few episodes. And this felt so rushed. And okay, how many times are we going to see her give a eulogy at her father's memorial service? We've seen this 100 times. Like, why are we seeing this again? It added nothing to this episode. Yeah. I don't understand.
I think that was a way that I think Sam Levinson and Euphoria kind of peaked early with the whole Rue storyline. I mean, we got that incredible episode of her, her withdrawal and her running around the whole city, running out of danger. But that was, I think, episode 5, right? So the fact that happened so early, now we're supposed to be reminded of this trauma that Rue had experienced as a child. So I think that's why we keep going back to, when we were watching this episode, you said like, oh, we're getting this scene again, her reading the note about her father. And we've seen this before. So it's just interesting that we keep going back to that. But I think it's just a way that the show has to do it to communicate Rue's, where she's coming from still. And I don't think it really works. I think that we lose a lot of her emotionality, but the season does end with Rue leaving the high school in this very dramatic, darkly lit hallway, and she leaves but you know what? We'll get there.
We'll get there. That feels so obvious for a show that's given us so many curveballs. And the season finale of season 1 was a musical, and there was a whole song and dance number, and now we just get, walk down the hall. I don't know. It just felt very, anticlimactic and kind of a bummer, but
I think so. I would have to agree. Let us know your thoughts as well. What did you think? Did you like it? We'll read it along the way, but let's go back to the beginning of this episode. This was the continuation of the last episode, which ended with a to be continued of sorts. It should have been intermission.
Right. It should have been intermission.
Yes. And that was your note too. I kind of stole that, but you said that should be intermission from the last episode to this one, because we're now getting Act 2. And the way that the episode ended last episode was that Fez hadn't arrived at the show. The tickets, the best seat in the house had been empty. And Lexi apparently has been eyeing that seat the entire time, even though she's been able to recite her lines and do all the cues and has everything else so dialed in. She's also been eyeing her phone and that missing chair.
It's pretty amazing that, being on stage, since I think we've mentioned before, we used to do theater in high school.
Clearly.
It's
Did you really have to guess if we're dressing up for the occasion?
It's funny how you can, of course this is for TV, so suspend your disbelief. But when the theater lights are on and the house lights are out, you can't see anything.
Right. So pitch black. That's a good note. Yeah.
That's being so picky. I know. I'm sorry, but that's just one thing that I kept thinking of too. It's like you couldn't see that. But
right.
Anyway.
Good point. So where is Fez? Fez is back at his house. He is being caught up with the whole situation that is unfurling. There is a planting going on of basically him trying to be framed for the murder of Mouse, which actually was committed by Ashtray. But they're trying to get that on the record. We have like a live phone that's there, so it's tense, and the episode begins with that. It continues from that storyline. And who knew that Faye was going to be so integral to, I would say, Fez's safety
Totally.
or his life.
She saved his life.
Who knew that she was going to make it through this entire season from the first place that we saw her, when it was episode 1 and she's the junkie in the car and she's shooting up and it's weird, and she's, you know, strung along this whole time.
Totally. Yeah. I'm very happy to see her do something good, because if she was just there for no reason other than just being a body, that would have been like, okay, what's the point? But the fact that she so subtly too, that was great. Just this, Fez got it immediately. He's been in that life. He kind of knows what's what.
Yep.
But that simple act of just was enough.
Yeah.
And that was so good. Yeah.
Yeah. So she tells him to hush. Don't give yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't. And it seems like they are going to get out of this scot-free, because the tables have turned on the guy who's trying to frame them all. And the tables have turned. And however, Ashtray does not get the memo that they're about to be good as long as no one pulls a fast move. And yet, what does he do? Pulls out a hunting knife and gets him in the gizzard. It's a bad bleed out, and it's a lot of blood, and it's the most blood I think that we've seen in this season.
Yeah, what was right in the neck?
Yeah,
of course.
And everyone is on pins and needles. They're trying to quietly take him out, because it's still live broadcasting. And some people are outside that we don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, he was tapped, like wiretapped.
Yeah.
For the cops, and so of course, Ashtray thinks he's doing a good thing by killing him, but
right.
In actuality, he's committing a murder on tape.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the ironic twist that is just so hard to stomach. And
I don't know if I've ever said this, but Ashtray has been such a good actor this whole time for saying nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just seems so mature, and maybe it's the little tiny tattoo here that gives him this like macho-ness.
Well, Dominic Fike also has that, and he kind of does not really convey.
I wouldn't call him macho necessarily.
Yeah, a different sort of.
But he's been just very steady, very solid this whole time. But in this episode in particular, the emotion that he gives, and he still barely speaks. You can hear him kind of mumble a little bit.
Yeah. Did you think that he was going to say his first words?
I kind of did.
On camera in life? I thought he was too. When he was starting to tremble and he started to hear just a little bit.
Did you lean in too?
Yeah. Oh, I totally did. I was like, volume up. Ashtray is going to say something. He's going to say one word and it's going to be profound or something. Mm-hmm. But through and through, he forever stays mute. He continues his character as he began. I mean, it's maybe fitting that Ashtray, that his character arc is so tragic, because let's not forget how the season opens, and it was with Fez's backstory, Ashtray's backstory. It started with the grandma raising them both, and we see Ashtray's his backstory, and he is how he got his name. He was getting bathed in the sink, and he wasn't getting supervised. Grabs a cigarette butt, starts chomping down on that thing, and there you go. There's Ashtray. And so he's only known the gangster life. He's only known destruction. He's not able to comprehend anything else. He's not able to comprehend running out the door, like Fez says. At that time, he's begging with him because he's his brother, and he says, "I'll take the fall for you," because that's what a big brother does. But Ashtray isn't able to comprehend that. He's only knows. And we'll get to, I think, the actual scene with the SWAT team charging in. But I noticed on one of the shots there was a poster of Scarface that was on the door, and it's like, that's classic Scarface. That's how he goes out too. And that once again, I think, is this surrealist commentary of art imitating life. Even though Euphoria is entertainment, and it's also commenting on Scarface, which is entertainment, it's still trying to show, that there are similarities there.
Totally. And that also reminds me of something you said in maybe the first or second or third episode, that it seems obvious that Sam Levinson draws a lot of inspiration from other directors. Like earlier episodes in the season, I felt inspired by different people. And now I'm blanking on like everyone you just mentioned.
Yeah, a lot of Scorsese, a lot of, it seemed like there was some I don't know, a lot of Scorsese. I mean, the camera's always flying, and the color is Claire Denis. There's a lot of expressionist and
being shot on film too. I think that adds a lot to it. But it just showing his film fanboyness in the characters as well as in the series as a whole has been interesting to watch.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And along with that, it was intercutting with Fez and Lexi having a very heartwarming conversation on the phone, which I thought the kids didn't talk on the phone anymore. This is supposed to be like the most hip, modern, coolest kids. I thought that no one talks on the phone, and yet they still do, which is, hey, it's heartwarming to see because Fez and Lexi have the most heartwarming. I've said that a million times, but it's just so simple. It's such a pure connection.
Right.
And they talk about, here's Lexi asking Fez, have you planned your life? And he wants to go live on a farm. He wants kids. He wants kids. And so does she. And she's a little bit more exact about the timeline and everything. And
that stressed me out.
Yeah.
She's like, by 30, I'm done. I'm like,
Yeah, by that point, I was like, Lexi, you know nothing.
I know.
and he asks her if she's seen Little House on the Prairie. And apparently she hasn't. Which
I don't believe for a second.
Yeah, come on. Who doesn't think that Lexi Howard, who, is as...
Type A
and artistically literate, knows all of these plays and art and stuff and poems, and yet she's never seen Little House.
Knows of it even.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, a little incredulous there, Lexi. We're poking that hole. But I think it just shows how simple, and they're in high school and they're talking about how they want to live just like a very simple life on a farm with kids, and they're probably like 17, 18. And it rings a little different with Fez because we know that he is a true hard-ass gangster. He's quiet and he doesn't show it. And he also says that's why I am not on social media. And I like the mystery of it all. So he wants that simple life, and that also connects with her too. And
totally. I just have to say too, during that whole montage of Lexi and Fez on the phone, Fez was wearing the most beautiful blue sweater, and his eyes were so piercing and so beautiful. And it looked that still, it kind of reminded me of, not at all in the same kind of composition, but just the beautifulness of it. The same shot of Cassie behind the wall of flowers. It was just that perfect.
Oh,
so
yeah, okay.
Shout out to the costume designer and stylist for Euphoria, because that sweater was so good.
True. And I think what's also been happening this whole time is that I think that he has also been furthering his modeling career. So Angus Cloud, I think, is also now the face of Prada or something, some big designer too. I saw, I think it was Tom Brown, I believe.
Okay.
I think that's a person.
With Maud Apatow?
Yes, with Maud Apatow, and they're wearing the
campaign.
very chic, sophisticated look. So he has a look, and I think that they know how to play to it too.
Totally.
I can see that shot.
It distracted me. But one thing that they say so well about themselves, Lexi says it, what I think we have in common is we're both empathic and we're both curious. And that's so spot on. And especially being empathic, because you don't really see people, drug dealers, as empathic human beings. And of course, we've seen Fez in that light this whole season, and in the first season. He's clearly taking care of Ashtray. He wants the best for his family and who he calls his family. He, as we see later on in the episode, does the ultimate sacrifice, which he's going to go down and take the blame for a murder he didn't commit.
Yeah.
And it's just showing that he's so saintly and he's such a good guy. And the rest of the cast, aside from Lexi, who of course is a good girl.
Goody two shoes, Lexi. We get it.
Everyone else you kind of have to remember why you should like them, because they're so unlikable.
Yeah.
But Fez is just genuinely a good guy who kind of got dealt a short hand. And the fact that some other character like Lexi recognizes that is really a tender moment, and it was very nice.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good observation, because
Thank
everyone
you.
else is just devil may care, and they're just living their most hedonistic life. And yet, on the outside, the guy who is so gangster, it actually has a well-meaning heart.
Yeah.
I'll cheers to that.
Hey.
Well, cheers to you, Fez.
Yes. So that was like the beginning. We started off like that.
Yeah. And then, of course.
And then we move on to Cassie peering through the theater door like The Shining.
Oh, yes, exactly. By this point, like the whole window has been fogged up. Like it was only a little bit, but now it's fuming. And then we get her walking down the aisle. We see Rue turn around and see the uh-oh moment. And then apparently the entire stadium, or the theater, like just turns around and sees her. Her mom sees her, and she's just giving Joker. She's walking down in full. She's lost it at this point because
for sure.
Nate has broken up with her. Her whole life has just been put on display to humiliate her. And she's not angry. She's beyond that. She is in a diabolical state. So she walks and she steps over the playbill of Our Life, which kudos on the playbill production. Once again, I must give my props to the prop master. Props to you, sir, because that is quite a nice touch again for East Highland High to truly get that. The full playbill treatment.
Right. I didn't notice that the last episode. I know you said it was an actual Broadway playbill, but I saw it now, and
not just like the computer paper you staple over together and it's all
kids
up.
These days.
That should be the tagline of this show. And then actually that's like where the Euphoria title card starts. And let's get into it. Let's get into the Cassie on stage. And then this is where the episode just takes a weird turn I think this is like the hardest that you've ever had to really suspend your disbelief in the entire season or even show, which is saying a lot because these kids have gone through freaking the most insane storylines. They're all packing heat and shooting at each other like it's The Sopranos, but this was like the hardest thing to really reconcile as Cassie gets on stage and she's calling out Lexi for making a mockery of her life. And yet the spotlight is still just like on Cassie and following her, and everyone's able to hear her, and people are confused by this. And yet Cassie is not screaming hysterical, but she almost becomes part of the play in a weird.
She gives a monologue, essentially.
She does.
She talks to the audience, and it truly, you have to really suspend your disbelief, but to a point where you're like, I don't believe this. This doesn't happen in real life. This wouldn't happen now. And then Lexi and Cassie's mom coming on stage, which I love her. Suze is great. She is my favorite character.
Yeah, her reaction when Cassie's walking down the hallway, and especially Rue's reaction. We both, when Rue does she sees Cassie, and Zendaya just does this like,
she does the SpongeBob.
Like the full droop, eek, like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Funny. But Sue's up on stage, and no one is stopping this, like, car crash. And it just, I don't know. And then Maddie comes up and starts fighting, and everyone's fighting, and you just are sitting there like,
yeah, and it's funny because there's a line where one of the audience members says, like, yo, is this a part of the play? I don't know. Or he says, is this a part of the play? And Cassie, I think, says, I don't know. So they're having this weird fun of like the mirrored images of themselves and what is reality. And I guess that plays into the sort of surrealist version of what Sam Levinson and Euphoria are trying to go for here. But it, again, to get to the season finale and make this the linchpin of all the drama. And then, as you said, like Maddie gets involved. She gets up on stage and then people are like cheering her on. And then there's like the girl fight and
no one's stopping it.
Yeah. No one's stopping it. Beyond that, she's getting chased for her life by an enraged Maddie. And yet the whole auditorium and Lexi are But, and it's really, we're supposed to believe that Lexi, that this is all on her, that she is the one who is like, this is so unfair to me that you're ruining my play. Here's a hot take for you. Okay. I kind of side with Cassie on this one. She's giving such great points. She's saying like, you are making an entire mockery of my life. And what gives you the right to judge me, to judge all of us? And she says, you're only be able to do this because you haven't lived. You haven't dared to really put yourself out there. She says, I've put myself out there. Granted, it's a little extreme. However, I still side with Cassie that, yeah, it's easier to, make judgment when you haven't entered the arena and put yourself out there, which Lexi has. And I think I'll be saying this throughout this episode, is that I just don't care for Lexi's character arc. And I don't think that she is in a place where we are supposed to feel sorry for her.
The thing is, I think Lexi became front and center too quickly, and we don't care.
Yeah.
I mean,
hot take.
If anyone cares, please comment and let us know why. Maybe we're missing something. And I'm not being facetious when I say that, but I just think agree. She became the focus of Euphoria, and her struggle is just that she's been an outsider, and her struggle is other people's struggles, like how she interprets other people's struggles. And it's not even her. She clearly has her own opinions and feelings about things. And that is her right to obviously feel those things. But
and like her dad, does leave her early. And so that is a trauma she's processing. And so I guess that is what we're not supposed to forget. And yet, it's really messy. It's really muddy. Is that trauma? Is it Cassie who's overpowered her in her sort of sex appeal and always being just overlooked or whatever it is? But the thing that I think I was finally able to put my finger on with this episode and with Lexi and why her character doesn't work for me and for the show, I think, is that we see how she deals with trauma, and it's that she apparently is, she excels in school and is more type A. And it's that whereas other people turn to drugs or sex or
she
whatever,
suppresses it. Maybe.
She suppresses it. And yet we, throughout the season, never saw anything that was actually an unhealthy,
output.
Yeah, an output, something that wasn't destructive. And it's apparently she channels all this trauma and is only, I think that if we were to see a more real Lexi Howard, that she would be the girl who's trying to get straight A's and starts taking Adderall and starts really going on the fritz and almost overdoes it that way. But we're really supposed to believe that the trauma she's endured and her repression really only made for a person who writes a hit play. There's nothing else I think that the self-destructive quality, whereas everyone else has quite some self-destruction to spare. It's any other character's oh yeah, I have some self-destruction. If you want some Lexi, you need some. And so that's why I feel it's not believable because we never saw how, she never joined into that. If I was to see if they were to maybe make her character that's the way, then I think I would have believed.
It would have made more sense. Maybe we would have we would have understood why we're spending so much time with her.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time with her in the season finale.
Yes. And where we've seen so many other storylines been introduced, and some of which just flat out not even remembered or brought up.
I have a list of things that I'll get to at the end.
Should we wait that for the end?
Of things that have been left unfinished. Yes, I see in the comments. I agree. Kat's storyline should have been explored.
We're Team Kat.
1,000,000%. What happened to Kat? You know what frustrates me the most? I think
you said this funny thing in the episode, but say what you're going to say.
Okay, I think I know what you're going to say. But what I was going to say is, that random posse girl, the third or fourth,
the fourth wheel
girl in the Maddie clique had more lines this episode than Kat.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
What a slap in the face to Kat. Mm-hmm. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand why. I think everyone knows if you Google it or TMZ it.
Yeah, there's speculation that there was
offset drama with Barbie Ferreira and Sam Levinson. So, I mean, clearly something it shows, because she was totally sidelined this entire season. And what a bummer, because I really connected with Kat in the first season. I thought she was so great, trying to find her own, forge her own path, feeling like an outsider in the same way Lexi does, but just really you sympathize with it. And to have her be so like silenced essentially this season was so disappointing.
Really, really was. There could have been so many moments where Kat goes on stage and sees Ethan and there's like a connection, or there's a stare, or there could have been story there, but it really felt like there was a pointed reason why Kat was not a part of any of this. And I think that hopefully the internet is, you know, I'm not going to condone the let's try and bring our pitchforks and let's bring it for Kat in season 3. But hey, maybe the show will course correct and hopefully show what is missing. And I think it's that. So
I will say, because I do read gossip sites, that apparently Tom Holland was an extra in either this episode or the episode before, episode 7, because he is dating Zendaya, as we all know.
Yes, as the world knows, yeah.
And he had visited the Euphoria set a few times, and he was in the audience.
Is he in the audience somewhere?
I mean, somewhere. I don't know if it was this episode or the one before.
It probably must have been.
That was kind of the rumor, that because he said he makes a cameo or like a small appearance on some talk show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Spider-Man.
We'll be looking for that. Yeah. We'll be looking for that. And he probably had more stage time than Kat did.
My God, I know. Don't rub it in.
Yeah. Very, very sad that had to happen that way. So Maddie and the friends, they chase off after Cassie, which I just want to also note that Cassie has that one really brilliant line. She says, "That makes me a villain, so fucking be it." And that was just chills worthy. I was like, are we getting like the Cassie origin story of how she becomes this new, the one of the terrifying character at Euphoria High will return for season 3. So yeah, that was such a weird part. I think you had mentioned, like, is this like Looney Tunes right now?
The music on stage was very Looney Tunes-esque, which kind of made me laugh, but also I don't think you were supposed to laugh at it.
Yeah, it was.
Or were you? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, because then like the mom comes on stage, Suze, and then Ethan comes and like hugs her, and they have a funny moment. It's not like this is supposed to be very suspenseful, intense. It's
yeah.
I feel
like it was awkward.
Yeah, and at that moment, Lexi still is not like looking at Fez and seeing that he's not there. There's just things that are falling by the wayside, and it's weird. But
it's weird.
But you know, the episode goes on like the show, and then we get Elliot and Rue in this disjointed scene where Rue sees Elliot at the theater and then has a flashback to when she visited him in his room. And I guess she is making amends with him now that she is sober, which is because of Elliot. He was the one who told everyone, ratted her out. So she's saying that she is able to finally forgive him now, which she's only been ever in the position of needing to apologize to people. And I think that's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek thing where she's saying, like, I forgive you for ratting me out, because she says, you saved my life.
Right. Yeah. And at that point, I turned to you. I remember I was like, wait, she forgives him? Like, shouldn't she be asking for forgiveness? But yeah, it totally makes sense that maybe that just makes her feel better or more in control of being able to forgive someone. Because when you're so low, I can only imagine you've hit rock bottom, which I guess she has.
I guess she did.
I guess.
I mean, not to say that wasn't insane, but I guess that was it.
True. Not to like downplay.
I guess that was rock bottom.
That,
the whole like
night of just jumping over fences and walls and things.
And she's able to just like watch the play and just have some popcorn and like, oh, what? Who? Me?
She's fine now. Yeah. What are you talking about? But I would imagine being at rock bottom, having any sort of power or control, it would be such a big deal. And so to be able to forgive someone is such an act of control. And that she probably is hanging on to that so much because she kind of has nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a control thing. And I think she's just trying to make amends. It seems like she wants to be his friend again. She doesn't, she goes to his room and essentially says like, well, do you want to be, or he says, can we be friends again? And she said, I think it was you said that we're not great for each other. But they're still friendly. And so much so that Dominic Fike as Elliot starts crooning up this bedroom ditty jam. Like, hey, do you want to hear this thing I wrote?
3 minute long song.
3 minutes later, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus later. I think we were like, oh, this is nice. Like, yeah, I guess if Dominic Fike is on set for an entire season, yeah, we'll let him play some guitar.
The one thing we said was like, why isn't he in the play? He has a beautiful voice.
Yeah,
why are you not singing?
Why isn't he part of the band with the Birdman drummer? And yeah, but really long song. I mean, did you guys love it? Hey, not to say that Dominic Fike isn't a great, talented person. I was drawn in, and they were going for some emotional stuff here. I think that the line, which I couldn't find the song on Shazam, but the line from the song that seemed to repeat the most often was, I hope it was worth it in the end. Which I guess that's the story of this season. Yeah, it was just a really long song.
It kind of reminded me, and this has no relation to anything we're talking about, but it reminded me of Don't Look Up and the Ariana Grande part, how like she plays an entire song on stage and you're like, was this in her contract that she had to perform an entire song? Because we only have an hour and this is taking up a lot of time.
At this point, I think we were starting to look at the clock like, let's speed it up now.
This could have been a bonus feature or something, but this was like, this took a lot of time out of very precious minutes from this episode. But I mean, beautiful voice. I wasn't disappointed really in listening to it. I just thought it was odd that it was the entire song. And then after he's like, I'm just still working on it. Like,
what a great,
sounds perfect.
What a great ending line. Yeah. Like, I think that you even put the bridge in there too. Like I think you got it down.
Right.
Yeah. And great song. And we'll see it, on Spotify or on all of the music channels. I think that is a great segue into this next part. Because it's the stage manager and Lexi. Lexi is like in shambles. She doesn't know how to continue after being humiliated. And the stage manager says to her, as a way of cheering her up, it could be worse. It could be boring. And at a certain point, I was like, wait, is that supposed to be? I was like, how do I relate that line to the actual show? Ooh. This episode?
I don't think he wrote that about the show.
No, I don't think so. I was reading too much into it. But actually, at a certain point, I feel like the episode was kind of getting a little boring towards the end.
I agree.
So, but what a very like young person way of thinking about things. Like, it could be worse. It could be boring. Apparently being boring is like the evil sin to never commit. Like, even though that this is like not successful and that it's, I don't know, let's not go down that whole rabbit hole. But I guess what happens after that is that Lexi pulls herself together. The show must go on in that classic way. And so she walks out and sees the whole cast and they're all looking at her with these big eyes. What do we do? And I guess it's Rue who is in the audience and starts the chant of Lexi.
But very incognito. She's like, Lexi.
In a very cool Zendaya Rue way. Lexi. And then like 1 second later, everyone apparently is down to keep watching the show.
They paid for a ticket. They want their show.
Yeah. Apparently they've all been sitting there just waiting to see what happens. And the show is mounted once again. Lexi says to the Cassie character, get back on that pony, giddy up. They have a whole carousel too, in case you didn't forget. That's part of the production. And the third act begins, something like that. Yeah. And still no Fez. And we know where Fez is. Fez is in soon to be a hail of gunfire. And this is absolutely the most incredible part of the episode. 100%. Is when the freaking SWAT team comes in. You almost forget, like, I'm being lulled to sleep by this play. And then, oh yeah, I forgot that we also have a freaking SWAT team that's right outside, bursting through, guns blazing. Yeah, and another callback to a lot of the first episode in particular, but also I think sprinkled throughout is Fez. So Ashtray runs into the bathroom with all the guns and things. I thought he was going to kill himself. Well, I thought that too. And I was like, that would even be so dark. Yeah.
because he's a child.
Yes. How old is he? Did we ever get a ruling on that?
I would guess 12.
Yeah.
But I have no idea.
That seems like a 12-year-old thing to do.
I don't know. The tattoo maybe ages him to 15 or something. But so I thought he was going to kill himself.
Yeah.
But what I thought was interesting was he gets in the bathtub. And the bathtub has been a reoccurring place of solace for these characters. And part of me thinks, maybe I'm reading into it, but when you're in a bathtub, you kind of are in this fetal position. And not that he was necessarily like that, but in the first episode, Cassie was very much kind of curled up in there. Hiding from Maddie. But it's just when you're scared or you feel alone, you tend to, that's just like your natural instinct is to kind of curl up into the fetal position. And this bathtub serves as the perfect kind of area to do that.
Great call. Also, do we think that it's a callback to Ashtray, how he got his name in the sink being bathed?
Yeah.
I feel like that is, I'm taking what you're saying and taking it another step. I feel like he started the way he ended, like ashtray to ashtray, dust to dust.
No. Oh my God, I'm sad.
If you haven't known by now, Ashtray gets, he gets his due, and he's not going to be in the next season. And it's so sad because that was where I felt also, Angus Cloud is doing great acting. He's yelling, Ashtray, no.
He was phenomenal too.
And that's where I think fully, like, the actual emotion was earned, and we were leaning in like, oh my God, this is so heartbreaking. This is, brothers who are so loyal, and yet one is taking himself out for this reason. And
truly, and it's both of them would die for the other. And that's what they were showing, is that they were willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice, which is their life, to spare the other. And Fez just banging on the door, calling back to like the Maddie stuff. So it was like a lot of recurring scenes and instances in this episode. But it just was so heartbreaking because you know Ashtray wasn't going to give up either. Because he's never been one to go quietly. He is quiet, but he's never been quiet in his actions.
Well said.
Yeah, so thank you. So not to say yes to me, but and it's not going to end well.
Oh,
as soon as he locks the door, something's going to happen. Either Fez is going to die or Ashtray is going to die.
Yeah, and
that one, I don't know if it was in this scene or a little bit later, but the one, the sniper red dot just going up his chest.
Yeah. The sniper vision, just tracing his body, knowing what is going to happen next. That to me is incredible storytelling and earned, and it's like much of a payoff as well. And that makes me think like, oh yeah, this is what Euphoria is. It's these kids who are in high school or young people who get into situations that that in no freaking way can you understand how they got into these larger than life situations. And I think that's when the show is operating at its best, is when you have a SWAT team knock down the door and it's pointing guns at a kid who's 12 years old who has a full assault, guns. But it makes sense, and it's earned character storytelling too, versus some other elements. So it's it was heartbreaking to see. Ashtray, you have been a beloved and very very solid addition to Euphoria. We will pour one out for you, Ash, and for all that you did, because I'm
getting sad.
As we should. That's just good on you, kid. We'll see you around. And from one gun to another, we also have Nate, who only drives at 95 miles an hour with an open Budweiser. He always, do you think that he's always like, when he gets his gun, because he goes from the play apparently to get the car and his gun, before he's walking out the door, he's like, wait, I got to crack a Frosty, like tall boy for the road. And it's this Budweiser. I'm like, don't you think at this point you'd be going like full slamming Jack Daniels or something a little heavier? It's just like, okay, like here's my beer and I'm loading this gun. And it's still scary though.
I need my carbs.
Yeah, it's scary. And we don't know where he's going. He goes to, I guess the place where his dad, Cal, has been this entire time, which has just been this warehouse where I guess Cal is also a realtor and his sign is like the sign is on the front of the building. Is that right?
Yes. But you know what? I think that's also the place where Nate took Cassie.
Oh, yeah. Right.
It's in the family, I guess.
Undeveloped projects.
Yes. But to your point, yes, squatters are there.
Yeah.
And Cal.
Yeah, so he, I guess, knew where his dad has been this whole time, and he goes there with a loaded gun. And we see Cal, we see who he's been hanging out with lately. Seems like a fun crowd. And he confronts him, and he says, basically, he has the thing where he says to his dad, finally, like, it's the heart to heart, like, you have left us with nothing, and I blame you. Are you happy? Are you happy? Yeah, he just asks him point blank.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that Cal is like taken back by this. He's taken like this is a very un-Cal like moment for a guy who left his family in the most insane way possible, literally pissed on the floor and said like, I'm taking the family photo and screw you guys. He seems to be like taken aback that Nate is now here and just like ruining the party, and he's like apologizing.
This felt very un-Cal, I will say.
Right?
I mean, it just, how it was written didn't seem believable. And I know that's kind of been what we've been saying this whole episode so far, but it just, this season, or this episode, season 2, but this episode didn't really feel believable. But I will say something that I thought was really interesting, which has to be intentional, but Nate and Cal were dressed the same. They were both wearing white shoes. They were both wearing like dark black pants, dark or black shirt and jacket.
Right.
And it looked, I mean, father and son, but looked like that was Nate's future.
Oof. I see what you're saying. I can see it now that you're saying that.
Yeah. And that kind of freaked me out.
And I think that freaks Nate out too, because he is trying to reconcile, like, am I going to be like my dad? Am I destined to be this monster? And when Nate straight up says, I don't want your apology, I just want revenge. It's like, holy shit, dude, are you about to waste your dad in this warehouse? Like, I didn't realize Euphoria is about to get into like Zero Dark 30 mode with just people just popping people off, but it's but it's not. The revenge comes with a USB drive. It's everything. He tells people, there's the admission of when he was 11 years old, he found all of these videos of his dad and all these prostitutes. And that actually, I think, calls back to a moment where when Nate was talking to his mom, like the last episode or the one before, his mom said something to the effect of, like, what happened when you were a kid? Something changed. I forget exactly what she said, but she said something changed there. And then when there was that nightmare sequence with Nate thinking about his dad on top of him, assaulting him, we weren't sure, like, whoa, did something happen where his dad like actually abused him in that way? But I guess it was the trauma of finding this tape or all of these tapes as well. Right.
Which, oh my God, I will say the police lights that you see in the background that are very faint and then they become more obvious. Sound is very minimal because you are still hearing the conversation between Nate and Cal. I loved that. I thought that was very suspenseful and it kept me on my seat because I didn't know, okay, is Nate going to shoot Cal? What's going to happen? We didn't know at that point, but just these lights in the background, you know, something is happening, something is imminent. You don't know what. And then I'm glad Cal got arrested. I'm happy he's now off of the streets, but it felt kind of anticlimactic for as big of a scene as Cal's given this entire season. And for as big of an asshole as he was to everyone this entire season. And then for him to be so kind of hurt puppy dog at the end. It felt very disconnected. And then just to get taken off by police felt too easy.
In a super low stakes way. You're right. There was no wild bravado to that moment. I mean, I thought that he was going to be like lulling Nate into a false sense of security to where he was maybe going to come back after him. But like, no, he just Nate opens the door. The police just sort of walk in, these like 3 dopey police dudes, and they just like, cuff him, like, thanks, Nate. And like, we'll take it from here.
Not even son or anything. It was just,
yeah.
I mean, he was
Nate
quiet.
Isn't even sort of, I mean, I'm not going to come at you, Nate, for like the performance, because this is just what you're given with the writing, but like, you're turning your dad in, and did we even see any sort of like lip tremble, eye tear moisturizing going on? Like, yeah, even that would just, it felt to me also, I mean, I agree with you 100%. It seems like, oh, we don't really know how to end this, so let's just kind of like tie it up with a loose bow and say like, Cal, you're in jail now, and maybe you'll come back later, something like that.
Right. Yeah, it felt too easy.
Yeah, it was a good parallel between that scene, and then I think I jumped ahead with the whole Fez of it all, because that scene from the police walking in the door, and then with the SWAT team literally just gunning down that whole room to where they kill Ashtray. Fez is arrested, in case you're just joining us now, and we're late to the party. That's what happens. It's cray.
He's not dead yet.
Fez isn't dead yet.
As far as we know.
No, he's yeah.
Shot in the liver.
Maybe he'll see Cal in jail. Ooh. Season 3, baby.
Whoa.
And then
maybe.
Who knows what happens.
Oh, you're
there.
so happy you just maybe made it.
Yeah, you can see it in my face, right? I'm gonna write that one down for my Euphoria fan fiction.
Oh my god! What if they're like? What if they get like put in the same jail cell?
Yeah. Just.
Oh shit. Who has Sam's number? Does anyone have Sam Levinson's number? We have an idea for season 3.
Yeah, he's not busy right now. So yeah, that wraps up sort of Nate's storyline. And then I think the rest of the episode continues with, once again, we have Rue in the funeral scene, but then we also have a lot of Lexi, and there's a montage of Lexi and her dad, and Lexi trying to grapple with her dad having left, and then her dad in the hospital. And that is still, and that's another thing that I think Euphoria shows without being too heavy-handed, that like these are kids who have all lost, very influential parental figures and their dads. Right. So like Rue lost her dad, and Lexi and Cassie, and Nate has to give up his dad too. And so what happens when all of that, is the case? So it's processing trauma, and then it's what happens. We have Cassie. We have a show. So the play ends, right? Because, sorry, I'm getting a little too ahead of myself.
You're excited.
Just to wrap it up. I'm still excited about that Fez Cal thing. No. So we see Rue and Lexi, and that basically transitions towards the end of the play. The end of the play is them, and it's them having a nice moment of together outside the funeral. Yeah, I guess that's the end of the play. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I guess that was it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And the play, ends our life. Isn't that your life? It's our life, apparently. It's the name of the show. And then we have Lexi and Rue. And I think the show pretty much ends with this scene that's trying to be very dramatic, and it's Rue coming to Lexi basically saying, thank you for making this play. I wasn't able to process any of my trauma. I think I needed to see this. And she's giving Lexi all of this regard of how do you do it? How did you do that? I think I need to do something to this effect. I have to process my trauma in the same way you have. And Lexi is all self-congratulatory. Oh, who, me? I made this brilliant piece of art. A little tough.
What was fascinating to me is that 57 minutes into the episode, we finally hear Jules talking. It took so long to get to Jules.
Yeah.
And she was there for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, to wrap up this entire season with a forehead kiss.
Right. How demeaning, how lame. What does she do? She walks over to Rue and they sit next to each other. Yeah. And these were the same people who they had this cinematic montage of the great lovers of history, or of Titanic and Brokeback Mountain and Sleeping Beauty, and their love was supposed to be something. Now, granted, maybe the show's not over yet, but you're so right that this is truly how you're ending this, Jules? I mean, this is what you're giving her for screen time?
Yeah, it was kind of silly in my opinion.
Yeah, the kiss on the forehead and she's walking away. And then we have this voiceover of Rue, who I guess has processed a lot watching this play.
Who needs rehab? Life. Just watch him play.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough beat.
What was interesting though, as in the voiceover, as Rue is leaving or walking through the halls, is she says that she stayed clean the rest of the school year.
Yeah.
So we, in theory, have now finished a school year, or we will, like a school year will have passed when we see the Euphoria kids again.
Yeah, what? Like, are you serious? Like, we just missed an entire school year because we had to watch this freaking play? Like, we saw more of the play than their entire high school. And like, right. I feel like that is such lazy writing. Now I'm really coming after it. Like, that's really is just
talking to it.
Like when you just say that this happened and you're just sorry, we're not going to show, like, we're just going to tell you not show.
Yeah.
That's like screenwriting 101. Are you joking me?
Well, okay. So as we kind of wrap up, that's essentially how this episode ends.
Yeah.
So
we have Cassie in the bathroom with the friends who it seems.
Okay, true. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to sneak that in. Like, there has been an altercation. Cassie's got a cut. Maddie's got cut on her foot. Maybe, I don't know, like whatever happened. And they're all just there together. So it was an interesting dynamic of they were all just like processing it together. You could kind of hear the applause in the background of the play ending. And and you could basically, Cassie and Nate's broken up with her. And Maddie has this sort of like this very cryptic line saying, "Don't worry, this is just the beginning." Okay. Do we think that really means anything? Or is that just like a line that like you write because you're like, oh shit, I got to turn in the term paper?
I think that's a line you write. And then you realize, oh, this is going to be great in the teaser or the trailer for this season.
Yeah.
Because beginning of what? I don't know. I mean, it feels a little bit too self-aware now.
I think so too.
But I will say I love that bathroom. So any scene in that bathroom, I love that pink tile.
I'm with you there. Like, that is such an iconic looking location. Props to that designer for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's a few things that I made a note of that have been left unfinished, and feel free to add to this.
Yeah. Oh, hit me. I'm ready. I'm ready for the endless scroll.
Number 1. Who's the third kid in that family photo?
Of Nate Jacobs' family photo.
We
Cal
don't
pulls
know.
it off the wall. There's 3 brothers and one of them.
Nothing.
None of them nothing.
Number 2, Lori. What happened to the drugs? And she escaped the house. Rue escaped. And where's Lori?
I feel like that's going to be a big one. Yeah. In no particular order. That is a big one. Lori is seriously letting go of all that $15,000 worth of drugs, or was it like 60,000? It was tens of thousands worth of dollars.
Although I could see her in some alternate reality being like, oh, well, sometimes life is like that.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. I guess I've never been happy before. What would make this different? You're birdie, birdie, birdie.
All right. Okay, so Rue, not the last time, second to last time she was in a scene with her mom. Her mom was desperate on the phone trying to get her into rehab.
Right.
So clearly Rue doesn't need rehab. She's fine on her own. She's smarter than rehab and doesn't need it, I guess. Because she stayed sober for the whole school year.
Maybe it's been, but she hasn't been part of like Alcoholics. I mean, well, they haven't said, so we don't know. That's a failing on the show's part. You're right. So keep it going, Jack.
Jules and Elliot's relationship status.
Great.
They were sitting apart in the play,
Mm-hmm.
Opposite sides.
And does Rue know about Jules and Elliot actually hooking up? She doesn't know that, right?
No.
Because no one ever said that they were hooking up.
Oh, no. They just came together
Yeah.
to expose her, essentially, to her mom and tell the truth.
Like a huge thing that she doesn't know, that she's still very much been kind of screwed over by, that her girlfriend had cheated on her.
Jules cheated on Rue.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Right?
Maddie and the babysitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Babysitter and the camera and the alarm clock.
Yes, so that whole thing with I was thinking about that. They were teeing up the mom to be this sort of creeper, and then they made her into this like likable character where it was like, oh, don't worry, like I'll tell my son that you can't be the babysitter anymore, and like you just gotta, like he'll be fine. That seemed like a very matronly moment, but it was like, wait, you're like a creeper,
right? And was it just to give Maddie a dress? Like, why is I mean, obviously,
did you read? I also read in the trades and the gossip. It's all out there now that the actress who plays the mother, is it Minka Kelly? Yeah, I think that it was a headline that I couldn't help but click, and it was like Minka Kelly says that she had to turn down a nude scene, like in the similar way that Sydney Sweeney had. Apparently, that scene where, as it's been reported, Maddie unzips her dress. The dress was supposed to fall and hit the floor, and she was supposed to be there completely nude in front of Maddie. But Minka Kelly, that was apparently her first day on set, and so Minka Kelly said to Sean Levinson, the writer, that Sam Levinson, apologies, that she didn't feel comfortable, or said that maybe we don't have to do that. And I guess he said, oh, great. Yeah, sure. No problem. And so the dress doesn't hit the floor. There's no nude scene. But that also means that there's not this character arc where it's like pushing it to that degree of, whoa, this like we have to rewrite this character in a way.
I mean, it just feels bizarre that there's a camera in the clock and nothing, it's kind of never spoken about again. I do sort of see the relevance of having her as a character in this season. And I think it's because, remember when Maddie was in the pool with, I forget her name, babysitter mom?
Yeah.
And she was saying, oh, I was a Cassie when I was in college.
Yeah.
Like I was the one that cheated and you like me, essentially. So you can learn to like Cassie again because we grow up and we realize we did wrong. So I understand that maybe that was Cassie of the future.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, she was. We were able to see a side of Maddie explain this in the way that she probably couldn't say it to Kat. Apparently not, even though it would make too much sense. Like, don't say this to your other best friend. Say it to the weird mom. Yeah. So we saw a side of Maddie as well that character provided. So it made sense.
Being more sympathetic. But just that camera was weird.
Absolutely.
And unexplained, really.
Yep. Yeah.
It's kind of all I've got. I mean, the rest was what the fuck? She stayed clean the rest of the school year? Like, where did the time
how
go?
much property damage did she do during that fateful night where she basically just was a hummingbird out of hell?
Yeah, exactly.
And there's probably a whole lot more. Let us know what else were the unanswered questions in this season. I'm sure that tomorrow or tonight we'll see, a BuzzFeed article or something saying, here are the 52 things that didn't get... However, that was a very good list, and I'm glad that you put that together. We didn't forget, so we presented it to you.
Yes. Well, shall we do our categories for the very last time?
Yeah, we're running a little long. Usually it's an hour, but for the season finale, I feel like we can go just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And let's go to our categories. Favorite moments, favorite scene, line, character. Did you have a favorite moment of this episode? I mean, I'll start and say I think that Ashtray giving himself up, Ashtray sacrificing himself, and as much as I hate to say it, like I'm sad to see him go, but Ashtray's death was the most rewarding piece of storytelling. Again, from episode 1 of season 2, episode 8, we saw him as this tragic figure, cradle to grave, like he didn't know anything else. And I thought that was just really well done.
I totally agree. I think that was definitely my favorite scene was the red dot going up his chest. And you don't see him get shot. You kind of hear a thud and you see Fez and the look on his face. And that was so perfectly done. And that was by far my favorite. Everything else felt very inferior to that.
Yeah, totally agree.
Needle drop moments. I don't know. I didn't have one.
There wasn't a lot of huge top.
I mean, Kylie Minogue was pretty great, I guess.
Yeah, that in the background. Of course, that's what Cal would be bumping, some Kylie Minogue. I think, so what one song that I caught was that in one of the overture sequences, I think it was Concerto pour la fin d'un amour by Francis Lai. And I want to say that this song was part of Little House on the Prairie, that overture was included at one of the moments in the play sequences, but taken from Little House on the Prairie. I want to say that I'll follow up to confirm, but if that is the case, then I think it shows that why can't we just live a simple life? Why can't any humans just be content with being on a farm, having kids? It's like, yeah, but life gets in the way. So that song called out.
That's good. It's very good.
Yeah, best needle drop. It was a huge banger.
All right. What about most what the fuck moment?
I of this episode, I think maybe Nate just turning in Cal was like, whoa, that was kind of what the fuck? Like this whole season, he's been brandishing this gun, like he brings it to Maddie and he's like, I'm going to use this thing.
And he's loading it.
Yeah, he's loading it every
before
time.
He goes to Cal. Yeah.
So to see that didn't pay off, maybe it was more of like, oh, that was just surprising. Are we supposed to think that? Is Nate really turning a corner to being like a good person? Does he really want to, is he going to stop being the bully? Is he going to stop being all these things? I mean, he's carrying a gun, but like, is he, are we going to see him maybe take a turn in this character in the next season? I don't know. That was pretty what the fuck.
Yeah, I'm going to just repeat myself, I think. And the ashtray scene.
Sure.
Was just, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's kind of all we had. We had those two scenes were the only ones really we could pick from, I think.
Yeah,
or I guess the girls fighting on stage.
Yeah,
that was kind of what the fuck.
Confusing.
But more of a what the fuck? Like what? Not like, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well said. Those are very two different WTFs there.
All right. Most memeable moments.
I said it earlier. I think mine's probably Zendaya as Rue doing the eek.
Yeah.
that face.
Yeah.
Such comedy.
I have one you probably aren't going to like, but I think it's Lexi saying the show must go on. I think it's just so basic and so, like live, laugh, love.
Right.
The show must go on.
I know, right? They really just were so basic about that. Yeah. It's very meme-worthy too.
Okay, last thing. Predictions for season 3, which I feel like won't be out until 2024. So until then.
Yeah, we can really go crazy here. So what grade are they all going into? I feel like they're all going to fail. They've never been to school core class once. They're all going to get held back. And the show will go on forever. They'll just put on the plays until the end of time, like The Shining. But prediction-wise, we'll still see, I think, Rue battle her addiction. I like that they included that line, even though, again, it was just very squeezed in at the last moment. She mentions the thing with Ollie saying that I think that the thought of being a good person makes you want to be a good person or something like that.
Yeah.
I think whether that was as deep as supposed to be, it was like, oh yeah, that's right. Ollie, he's supposed to be smart. And she walks out the hallway into the real world again. That will continue to be but how much more of that are we really going to explore? Maybe season 3 is going to be all of these kids not like going through their like hedonistic lifestyles, but they're trying to be a little bit more straight and narrow or like battle those demons a little bit more. And it's not like we want to watch that kind of a show. Like, oh great, like your shirt's tucked in and like you're not doing drugs or whatever. But maybe that's
Gossip Girl.
Yeah, maybe we'll see new characters that, there's still a lot of ones that still need their due, but maybe there's new people that then shake things up even more. I'd like to see them if I'm saying what I'd like to see, I would like to see the return to Maddie, Cassie, Kat, that dynamic. I think Rue and Jules are their own thing, even though they say that they're all friends. We never see them really all hanging out. Like, keep those people separate. We don't need to see them all together.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would love to see Gia focused on more. And especially it was interesting that Rue and Gia's mom said Gia's been in detention. She's failing or she's like not doing well in school.
Yeah.
It would be very interesting if we kind of shift towards her because she is a phenomenal actress.
Yep.
Phenomenal. And she can totally handle the show more than Lexi. I would for sure watch the Gia show over the Lexi show. And so hopefully in season 3, we see more of Gia. I love your prediction about Cal and Fez.
They're both in jail now.
Both in jail at the same time.
On the same day, same night.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. Awkward.
And Suze. More Suze.
More Suze. More wine. Just, pour a little wine and maybe rewatch season 1 and have a good time because that's what it's about.
Well, okay, quickly before we how would you rate Euphoria season 2 on a scale from 1 to 10? All things considered.
Oh, there was a lot of good. I feel like I liked watching the show and then talking about it with you, talking about it here, talking about it with people. We talk about it with our parents now, which is kind of crazy. God. It took over the whole culture. It was fun to watch, Sandra and Larry Rojas also talk about Euphoria with your parents. But I mean, so having said those factors, that was and a lot of just beautiful cinematography and music. I'm front loading this to then also say it was very weakened by bad story, by bad
the second half
writing.
Felt very weak.
Yeah. Once they realized, we don't really know what we're doing with all of these different storylines. I'm gonna say it was I'm gonna give it like a 7.5, 8 out of 10.
Okay. Oh yeah, I was gonna say 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of great stuff here. Big fans of the creators, the people, but compared to the first season and what we know that the show is capable of.
Yes.
This was not a 5-star season. This was not, I don't even think, a 4-star season. I think it aspired to be, but there was just a few things left on the table that we didn't get the huge cathartic turns that really deserve. So it's around that 3.5 star season.
Yeah. Man, that's kind of a bummer, but we'd love to know what you think. So
yes,
leave a comment. What do you think? I mean, out of 10, what would you rate Euphoria season 2?
Let us know.
Oh gosh. Well, this has been fun.
This has been
Sunday ritual.
A total joy, truly, on behalf of the Hollywood Critics Association, on behalf of Morgan and myself. Cinemacy.com. Check out Cinemacy for indie, art house, foreign films. We'll continue to review, write about movies there. And if you like what you saw, we'll probably continue live streaming too. So we'd love to tell you more about, movies and shows that are like this, where we can keep, sharing our takes.
Well, and one cool thing too is tomorrow is the Hollywood Critics Association Movie Awards show, which will also be live streamed right here on this channel, HCA YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think that there's, event that's waiting right now. You can just pop over to it on the channel and set it a reminder.
Yeah, and some cool news that Ryan and I are going to be presenting the Best Indie Film Award.
Yeah.
So catch us live tomorrow if you want to see us again.
Tune in there if you're not sick of us already.
Yes.
On the whole, we ain't sick of Euphoria. We'll be coming back for season 3. But until then, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you online.
Thanks for watching.
Fez out.